Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and Alison McConnell here with me, and delighted to have your company. Thank you very much to the thousands and thousands of people now watching as we are exclusively on YouTube. We are delighted for your support. If you hit the subscribe button, we'll be even happier if that is humanly possible. And if you hit the bell, you'll get all the notifications of our unique content, lots of one-to-ones and dream teams and other little features which I'm sure you will enjoy. And I can tell you, coming up in the next couple of days, we've got a fantastic competition where I think you will definitely want to get involved in it, because the artist Gio Thompson is giving us the chance to give you a painting of your favourite player. I don't know about you, Ruffy, but Gio is a top artist. Yeah. He's given us this competition. And I just think it's fabulous. You think about just your favourite player and you want him in your favourite strip, and Gio will paint it for you.
Right, and Gio's stuff is so famous that actually players actually go to him. Rangers players, Celtic players, you know, go there and get photographs of them. Players. Everybody. Yeah, I've got one. I've got one in my house.
Yeah, you have indeed, absolutely.
Yes. And they're so lifelike. You know, I'm gorgeous in it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing about it is that, Ali, it doesn't matter who your favourite. It could be a Ronaldo, it could be, you know, a Brian Laudrup, you name it. It could be a Davy Cooper in the Motherwell top.
Yeah, and it's a nice gift for somebody. It's a nice present, I think, to give to somebody if you're looking for something that's a bit different, a bit maybe a momentous birthday or an anniversary. It's a nice gift to give someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's well worth it. So well worth telling your pals as well, and you can join us. Thank you to so many of you for sending us messages as well. We try and read out as many as possible. Of course, Paul Brady, good to see you. Lee Shanley, Matt's there. Stuart Ramsey always joins us from the Midlands. He just says the same thing every day. He must get sick typing it. But nevertheless, Stuart, we're absolutely delighted that you could join us. Elizabeth is with us. I haven't actually seen Elizabeth's. Triantafilou is her name, Ruffy. I didn't show you her name because you would have absolutely savaged it, to be honest with you. You'd have been all over that. I mean, she'd have been thinking she had a totally different name. So thank you to Andrew Davison, Norman Heaney, Tommy Adams, Paul Baird and Niall Kane, to name but a few of the people who are joining us. We're absolutely delighted. There's lots of messages to read out as well. Just as a start to the programme, I'd like to say that for the programme itself, I'm going to dedicate it to Ian McGarry, whose funeral was held today down south in West Sussex. My thoughts go out to all the McGarry family and all his friends as well. He was a really great friend and good pal of the show. He'd come on a regular basis on our YouTube show and of course on the television show as well. We really did enjoy Ian's company. I knew him because he was a local lad from the next village to me, and we had a lot of good banter. But he was a first-class journalist with great contacts, great stories, and made a good living down south as a journalist writing for some of the top newspapers, Ruffy.
Yeah, and he certainly bought into the show when he came on. He used to take up a lot of ribbon of the background, the pictures and his wall and that down in London, and every time we went back he would change them and move them about. So he really got where we were coming from, and he bought into everything we'd done. Yeah, it was good. And
all his family are absolutely top drawers, so our thoughts go out to all the McGarry family at a very difficult time down in West Sussex. A lot of people, including Graham Hunter, my old friend from the journalistic world, and a number of other journalists who were lucky enough to attend that service today. Other messages I'd like to mention. Cameron Fife, I thought, come up with a brilliant idea, which I think I'll ask all the boys this week. If you could bring one player back to play for your favourite team, who would you bring back? Cameron loves the show, but I thought he actually wanted it for Tam, if you could bring one Hibs player back, but I thought I'd just extend it. You know, if you could bring one player back, Ruffy,
is it going to be from the team that you were at?
No,
could it be anybody?
One player back from the team that you played for to play in the current team. Who would it be? Would there be one specific one that you think would just, you know, take them to another level?
Partick Thistle, obviously, they're still alive, so that I can't fall into that category. You know, that somebody.
Yeah, but if you brought them back to 27 or 28 years of age and they're at their peak,
would you put yourself in goal?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to be in goal.
Yeah, but the problem with you is you look in the mirror now and you still think you're 27, 28. This is shallow, Al.
Yeah, if I'd moved on to Hibs, I would have loved to have played with Pat Stanton again.
Oh, so you'd have brought Pat Stanton back?
Pat Stanton.
It's such a good shout. Yeah, absolutely. I would probably, if I had the choice, I'd probably pick Dalglish or McGrain. I'd bring either one of those back at their absolute peak. 27, 28, you couldn't touch them. They were just magnificent. I'm sure 1,000,001 Rangers fans would bring Gascoigne back, or even Davy Cooper, I think.
Brian Laudrup.
Yeah, or Laudrup. I mean, you think of these type of players, and there's people out there saying they'd take Henrik Larsson back now, even at his current age.
He still looks fit enough to play.
He does, absolutely.
Like yourself, Peter. He looks after himself.
So, great question from Cameron. Thank you very much to that. And Joe Milne, who says to us, it's a great show. The best interview of the weekend, as Alice has just mentioned, has to be Charlie Mulgrew. His reaction when he was told that Matt McGee thought his goal was lucky was absolutely hilarious. Raging, isn't he? Absolutely brilliant. Charlie's patter's magnificent.
It was funny. It made me laugh. I thought it was just it just felt very like a very Scottish interview. I think you could just dripping with sarcasm.
Yeah, brilliant, and a great goal too.
And I thought it was good.
Can't beat it, Ruffy. Great goal, fantastic. Wee bit of patter, and he looks like Charlie looks. I mean, honestly, you'd never get tired of belting him one, wouldn't you? he's just absolutely. He's like a bronze Greek god.
Yeah, we missed a bullet there. We actually spoke to him before he went to Dundee United, and obviously Colley thought he had him because I think they're quite pally. But unfortunately, Dundee United tripled his wages, and that's where he went.
You'd have thought Charlie would have loved just strolling about the West End as well. Unbelievable. So thanks to Joe for that. And this one from Liam Watson, he says, our players completely crumbled in the second half against Hearts. Nowhere near acceptable. I now fear, should we lose a goal in the first 15 minutes on Saturday, we could have another Hampden humiliation. I think we're at the stage where Ron Gordon has to accept that the experiment has gone wrong and get Kevin Thompson in. I think you're a bit early, Liam, on this. Sean Maloney hasn't even had a transfer window. He's inherited a squad. Yeah,
I think it's very early to judge him. I think it's too early to judge him. But what I would say also is that when results aren't coming, there just isn't a huge amount of breathing space. I would take your point. I think he does need a bit of time. I think to put his stamp on it, to get a few transfer windows. But the reality is that's not guaranteed. If you don't see progress coming on the pitch, then it's not a forgiving industry.
Yeah, but of all the new managers, none of them are getting a trick out of the team they've inherited. Jim Goodwin hasn't had a trick. Stephen Robinson hasn't had one. Mm-hmm. You're looking, you're saying to yourself, everybody wants a quick fix, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, it does take time, I think, but what you do have to see is steps towards progression. I think you want to see encouraging signs that it's moving in the right direction. I think at Aberdeen, what you can see right away is that Jim Goodwin is going to tear it up. I think we spoke about it even before he went in, that he would have anticipated a clear out this summer. I think it's already started. I think you can see that he's gone in and just decided that the standard's not good enough. I think the comments that he made about players in particular not being fit enough to play.
But it's all levels, Ali. I mean, if you're talking Jim Goodwin, my feeling on this is if you have a side that's not been successful, it doesn't matter what level it's at. If you've got those players still there and you haven't changed the players, you still, more often than not, you'll get a wee hit out of them. But I think they revert back to type. I give you Manchester United, Ruffy. Ralph Rangnick. I give you Frank Lampard at Everton. He's struggling to get a trick out of them. Aberdeen, St Mirren, I think St Mirren's a different type thing because I think Stephen Robinson has maybe dipped with them.
I was going to say, I think St Mirren look as though they've regressed, and I just wonder, Tam touched on it last Monday when he said sometimes when you come out and criticise players publicly and say, well, they might not be here next season, that it goes the other way, and I think you're kind of looking at the way that they've gone since Jim Goodwin has left and thinking, it doesn't come across like a happy dressing room.
Yeah, thank you very much to so many of you who've posted messages about players, and one of them is George, who says Gary Harkins, Ruffy. Gary's a good player, wasn't he?
We had him at Thistle for a wee while.
Yeah.
Bags of skill, individual skill again,
Magic.
Skill that other players don't have, but again, in the modern day, you got to work as well. you've got to put a shift in.
Yeah, okay.
You don't get,
so
you've
not
got to
Gary
put,
Harkins
you've
then.
got to put a shift.
Robert Round says Jim Baxter. That'd be amazing.
Jimmy Johnson, you've got to throw Jimmy Johnson.
You've got to throw Jimmy Johnson. Well, I'm glad you said that, because Steve McNeil says Jimmy McGrory or Jimmy Johnson. Helen says Danny McGrain. Ian Docherty says Jim Baxter. And Ronnie Porter says I'd bring back Ali McCoist. I have to tell you, Ronnie, due to the fact that I play 5-a-sides with him, I'd take him now, because he can hit them, Ruffy still hits the back of the net, left and right side, left and right foot, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what Ali was like. All good strikers, they accept that they're not going to score all the time. So, but the percentages are still there, and that's probably what he does at the 5-a-side. But obviously the level he's playing it is a wee bit easier, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I think you've been a bit harsh on James McFadden, to be perfectly honest with you, but nevertheless. Anyway, thanks very much to lots of people who've posted some messages as well. David from Airdrie says, it's great to see Ruffy back, looking great. What a suntan for the big man. Thoroughly enjoy the football show, love the humour and the banter. One of my favourite messages, Ruffy, which I'm going to read out, is I'm an avid watcher of the show, says Jan the Staggy. Unfortunately not live due to the work, but every evening she watches it. But she's on holiday this week, so she's going to be watching it live, which is great. She says, and as a Ross County fan, I would love it, Peter, if you could get Ruffy to eat some humble pie after he tipped us for the drop. Any chance you could just apologise, Ruffy?
I do have to apologise. I got it drastically wrong. I think Malky Mackay, I saw somebody this morning tipping Malky Mackay for Manager of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just shows you how he's changed things around. But he's identified, players that he knew could do well up there. He's dipped into the market. He's bought the right players, and they've all done him a turn. So yes, I have to hold my hands up and say, well done, Ross County.
Yeah, absolutely. She says she loves the show. Keep up the good work. I love the fact that you rip into each other. And she says, this is the best line, Ruffy. Never mind the housewife's favourite. Peter is mine. She says, that's it now. So we've got somewhere to stay in Amsterdam. We've got somewhere to stay in Colorado or over in America. And now we've got somewhere to stay in Dingwall, Ruffy. That's all I'm saying to you. It's fantastic.
You can take the Dingwall.
Yeah, exactly. Ali, what do you make of the predictor? You're out in front, but I think Ruffy and I are confidently predicting we're going to reel you in. There it is. What do you make of it, Ali?
Let's have this conversation in a month.
Exactly. 283 versus 278, and 274 is me. 258 is Tam McManus. 250 is Hugh McDonald. 249 is Tam Cowan. So it's a slender lead that you've got. Only what, 5 points from Ruffy? Yeah,
it's a different kind of pressure when you're leading. Is when you're chasing, it's just about keeping your focus, staying single-minded.
It's Alison Postecoglou here at the moment giving us that. Anyway, let's crack on with the madness of Scottish football. There's some nice news. The Scottish FA and UNICEF have today confirmed that £500,000 has been raised from last month's fundraising friendly between Scotland and Poland at Hampden Park. There was a £10 donation. There was further donations made along the way, but £500,000 is brilliant, Ruffy.
That's fantastic. And football do so much, and these organisations are right on the button with everything they try to do, and everybody got right behind it, which we all knew they would do. And although these figures are there for I'm sure every other country in Europe will be doing likewise, so it'll be a tremendous pot.
Yeah, a lot of money needed to try and rebuild the country and give people a chance to rebuild their lives. When that happens, God only knows, but we're certainly praying for it. What do you make of your old teammate Kenny saying, give Ukraine a World Cup bye for 2026?
Yeah, it's something they might look at. It takes away the pressure for another 4 years, for us to think about it. And it's just when you see the pictures now, Peter, the whole place being decimated. And I switch it to, if it had been us, if our cities were getting destroyed and everything, would we want to play football? Do you think so? If all the cities in Glasgow or Scotland or whatever was getting decimated and people were getting... Would football be the first thing that we would want to say, we need to play that game?
No, it wouldn't be. Certainly with the Scotland one, I still think it's going to be very difficult to play it. But I do think that when that country, hopefully gets back to some kind of, way of rebuilding again and becoming a nation that wants to participate in things again, it would be a lovely touch. Sentiment, aside, we all know, Kenny mentioned it there, it'd be a lovely touch for people to say, listen, not only can we build, we can actually look towards a World Cup where we don't have to qualify, we're there. It's a lovely touch. Gives people a sense of hope again, a sense of maybe escapism from it all.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment behind it. I think you would applaud it. It raises a very obvious question about whose expense do they take the place. So that's the next conversation that you would have to have. But I think a lot of people would applaud the gesture.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Ali, on that. Okay, just a quick one before we get to this. I want to get your thoughts on the post-split fixtures. They came out yesterday. We got them on the show. But just quickly on the Aberdeen situation, Jim Goodwin already has highlighted that he's in discussions with new players, but only in the last couple of hours confirmed that Emmanuel-Thomas contract over. He's on the way out. We've had Andrew Considine, Mikey Devlin. I think there's a few more that he's about to announce as well. I
think there'll be a cull. I think they'll be unrecognisable, certainly in terms of the squad next season. Whether or not they'll be unrecognisable in terms of the performances and results, we can't say. But I think there'll be a huge clear out there, and you can already see that it's coming. There's no surprise to me about the Jet one. I think his comments that he wasn't fit enough to play, I think the writing's on the wall. The minute you hear that coming from a manager who has a player with a professional contract, you know that the end is nigh. And I think I would agree with you. I think there'll be vast numbers who leave the club this summer.
I don't like to say this, Ruffy, because when I look back at Aberdeen over the last 20, 30 years, I can see lots of times when they have performed and won a trophy, and then for various reasons in that city alone, which operates in a totally different mindset, they've sacked a manager when they shouldn't have. Alex Smith was a classic case. And then Roy Aitken, I think, won a League Cup, bumped out the door, in comes, an Aberdeen legend, doesn't quite cut it. So this time around, I don't want to say that Jet wasn't an Aberdeen standard player, because what is a standard Aberdeen player? They should have won, for me, they should have won the league when the 2 seasons when they had a real chance to hammer Ronnie Dyla's side, because they were just terrible. I mean, Celtic winning that league at a time when Aberdeen were on a great run, and then they collapsed in the October of one of the seasons, couldn't win a game in October and lost the chance to really hit the front. So I don't know what the Aberdeen standard of player is, but I think he's got to take a leaf out of, dare I say it, Fergie's book of old, which is basically go down, try and get great talent from West and Central Scotland, get it up to Aberdeen, and then try and promote some of the talent you've got in your academy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what his structure is. I think if we had 24 Aberdeen players in front of us, we could probably wipe 12 of them off it. So it is a massive change that he's got to do. I'm sure he will have money behind him. I think the owners have really bought into Aberdeen with the training ground and everything, but it's a better quality of player. I think before Rangers come back for where they were, I think Aberdeen just rested on their laurels a wee bit, because it was it was Celtic and Aberdeen. Rangers were out of it because they were coming up through the divisions. Yeah. So I don't think they pushed the boat out. Sometimes you say to yourself, well, we don't have to, because Rangers aren't here, we'll be first or second. Yeah. But that's in the long run has suffered them.
I don't think they ever thought about we'll be first.
No, but there was, you mentioned it, there was a Saturday when they were playing first. If they'd have won, I think they were 3 points clear of Celtic or something like that.
Should have won the league that season. Yeah. Celtic were terrible.
To be fair, I don't know that there was ever a realistic chance of them winning the league, I'd be honest, and just say I think when it comes to over the course of a campaign, I don't think they ever looked like they had enough depth. I think Celtic always looked as though they were going
to... Ronnie Dyla's side, Ali.
Could go on and win it. I don't think they were ever really under serious pressure of
No, they
considering
weren't, but if Aberdeen had a bit of ambition, they could have put them under pressure.
Yeah, I think Celtic were still had a squad of international players. You had Lee Griffiths, who used 40 goals that one season. I take your point. I thought, Celtic were lacklustre at times and strolled towards a title. But I think Aberdeen have fallen so short this season that it's difficult to see what the standard is. But they've very bare minimum you should anticipate is a 3rd, 4th place finish.
Yeah, it hasn't materialised. Listen, as well as Rangers getting ready for Braga, the current champions were also looking on with great interest at the post-split fixtures. Celtic fans wondering with a 6-point advantage whether they could obviously play Rangers right after the Scottish Cup semi-final. So here's how the post-split fixtures look. Celtic on April 24th will play away at Dingwall. Not easy when you consider what Malky Mackay is doing. Sunday, May the 1st, 12 o'clock kick-off, Celtic against Rangers, is the second game of the split. And then it's Celtic Hearts, Dundee United Celtic, and Celtic against Motherwell. And as far as Rangers are concerned, they've got a game away to Motherwell to start with. Then, of course, it's that game at Celtic Park. And then it's Rangers Dundee United, Rangers Ross County, and Hearts Rangers for the last game of the season. I mean, where's it? There's swings and roundabouts here on this one, but it could potentially still be a title decider if you got to Celtic Park the way things are looking. I'm
surprised at that. That was my first reaction when I saw the fixtures. I had anticipated it being the first game after the split. I just wonder if there's maybe just a look at the close proximity of the games. You had the game last weekend, you've got the semi-final on Sunday, just trying to space it out a bit. But I was surprised because I think if Rangers drop points in to Motherwell, I think Celtic could go and win the league at Celtic Park, and I think the league have been at pains to avoid such scenarios in recent seasons, and you know why. You go back to that 1999 game. But it'll be interesting to see. I think much will depend on what happens on Sunday and the performance that comes and the result that comes out of the semi-final, which will shape just how Rangers go into that game and whether or not they'll drop further points in the league before they go to Celtic Park.
Yeah, I'm with Ali on that. I was surprised, Rob, because I thought it was going to be Scottish Cup semi-final, boom, straight into another game against Rangers.
Yeah, and Rangers would have wanted that game earlier rather than later. You know, you want to try and get something out of it. But for me, the split, I think, favoured Celtic. I think Celtic have got the two hardest games at home, and Rangers have got the two hardest games away from home. And they're taking care of all the other sides. Yeah. I mean, Celtic have got Hearts at home, they've got Rangers at home, Rangers have got Hearts away and Celtic away.
Yeah.
You know, I think that swings it a wee bit.
It's strange you say that, because I know a number of fans are going mental, going, wait a minute, that's the way the cookie crumbles, that's the way the whole thing pans out. You get one or two games where you're thinking, but they still had to play, they still have to try through a computer and human involvement as fair a layout of the games as possible over the season.
And the flip side is at this time next season it'll be the other way around, because the Celtic Rangers games you're guaranteed 4 every season, so you know the first one next year will be at Celtic Park, so the last one will be at Ibrox. It's kind of swings and roundabouts that way. The same that Celtic's opening night game was at Tynecastle, so now they play Hearts at home. But the one that jumps out a bit for me is probably the Ross County, the game up at Dingwall, because I think Rangers play earlier, so there'd be an opportunity to cut the deficit potentially to 3 points, and then Celtic are going to Dingwall. I think if you look at the games against Ross County this season, they've been fairly definitive for both Celtic and Rangers. Celtic, that 97th minute winner away back in November that prevented them from falling further behind was huge when you consider the way the campaign played out. And then similarly, I'd say the 3-3 draw that Rangers had at Dingwall, then they walked into that game at Celtic Park on the Wednesday night knowing that they'd given Celtic a huge opportunity to go to the top of the league with a win. I think it just took the wind entirely out their sails. So I wouldn't dismiss that trip for Celtic up to Dingwall.
League not over then in your mind?
I don't think it is. I think there's still potential for twists and turns. What I would say is that Celtic don't look like a team who are short in confidence at the minute. I think they look like a team who are playing like champions. They look as though they have a bit of confidence, a bit of assurance about them in the manner of their performances. They don't look nervous in any shape or form. I think it'll be Ross County, though. We'll see that game as almost a free hit. That they've made their top six, or they're in a position that they'll relish, and I think they'll go out and try and use the pace that they've got within that team to try and hurt Celtic. I think you would expect Celtic to prevail, but I think it's a difficult game for them.
Yeah,
I just think if if you're saying there is going to be wee twists and turns, well, there always do. And if Rangers are thinking they can do something, then they go and turn it and then make a right good melee, and it comes to the last game. Just say it comes to the last game. Where would you rather have Motherwell at home or Hearts away to win 3 points?
Yeah, I mean, it's a...
that's the games... I mean, we don't know how it's going to be.
Ali's made it sound exciting, but I'm just going to kick her out into left field. I mean, I just cannot see Celtic dropping any points. I mean, way back at the start when we were looking at the way... I mean, I watched one of the interviews that we had after match from Ange Postecoglou way back at the start. It's on our YouTube channel, and he said, everybody's got the league's over, and it was only 6 games in, and Celtic were having a nightmare. And he said, God, they're calling the league, and we're only 6 or 7 games into it. And suddenly, I mean, I tipped Rangers. Did you tip Rangers? Mm-hmm. Did you tip Rangers? So everybody's gone Rangers, but you look at the way Celtic are playing now, the intensity, the desire, the options that they have, I can't see them slip up at all. I can see them winning. I can see them winning every game for the split all the way through to the end of the season. I can't see them drop a point because I just think they are so relentless and in the zone right now. So I don't see anything other than Celtic winning it by minimum 6, possibly more.
Well, that's a bold statement.
Well, that's what this programme's all about, Ruffy.
I've always said all along, they won't lose a home game. The Rangers game comes into that category, and we know these games can go. I think they'll win the other 2. I think Ali's right about Ross County. It could be a difficult one, but they're good enough and got the players to do it. So I just think that the Rangers game's the big one.
Yeah, coulda, shoulda, woulda, mighta.
I don't think they'll win it by 6 points.
You don't?
And did you say 6 or 9 there?
I said minimum 6. I think they'll win it by minimum 6.
I think it'll be tight on that.
Yep, so they're going to slip up somewhere?
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, where?
Away from home somewhere.
Where?
Dundee United, something like that.
Okay.
I don't see a slip up based on the evidence of 33 domestic games unbeaten. Now, it's a sequence of results that you would have to say is impressive in any context, and I think, as he said he was trying to do, they look like a team who are peaking going into the latter stages of the campaign. My only point about the game at Dingwall was that Rangers have an opportunity to cut the deficit before it and ask the question. Yeah. What you would say in the evidence presented in front of you is that Celtic are more than capable of coping with it and coming through it. But I think it would be wrong to just dismiss it as a straightforward game that you go and prevail in. But I think just now, what's very notable about Celtic and how they play is the confidence within the team. Yeah,
listen, we all deal in probabilities. I'm just giving you an opinion on what I think it's going to be. If you don't want to give an opinion, fine. By the way, thank you to a lot of people. The joy of football. I think I actually annoyed a few people who were talking about the whole Ronnie Dyler thing when. One person says Celtic won by 17 points. That wasn't my point. My point was Ronnie Dyler's side were turgid to watch. A number of the players didn't like working for the manager. Some of them had down tools, and they were turgid to watch. And if Aberdeen had anything about them, they could have given them a run for their money. But unfortunately, Aberdeen, by the time they got to October, they just crashed as well. And then, a Ronnie Dyler side that was dismal in Europe as well, suddenly, just ran away with the league. Aberdeen were their only real challengers. But this time around, Ali thinks touch and go. I say minimum 6 points. What do you think?
I think it'll be in excess probably of 6 points. I think Celtic will beat Rangers at Celtic Park. I think they'll win the game. And I think then what you might see is just Rangers stuttering towards the end. Once realistically it's gone, I think it can be hard to motivate yourself for it. I think you tend to feel a drop off, and it's another club where I think there'll be big changes this summer. I think you'll see a lot of players leaving. I think you'll see changes in terms of personnel at Ibrox this summer too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what Rangers don't need is a Scottish Cup semi-final right off the back of Braga, because he's rightly, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst took a couple of the players off, give them rest their legs, get them ready for Thursday night. They've got to overturn the 1-goal deficit, get through that game, bank the money, and then lift themselves again for the Sunday at Hampden.
Yeah, and we saw what's happened, particularly with Rangers and Celtic when they come back for European games. It doesn't matter who they're playing, they always seem to stumble a wee bit. And the biggest worry for Rangers are obviously with Morelos off. They can't afford to pick up any more injuries to major players like Aribo and all that. So you're then getting the Braga game out the road and getting into a massive semi-final, and you want to go in that really in top form. So the Braga game, I think it was Alison said, will be a big result for them, but they can't afford to have any more injuries.
Yeah, I can see them win now. I think at home, I think Rangers. I wasn't overly impressed with Braga, but Rangers still managed to get out after they gifted them a few chances. I think Rangers in front of a full Ibrox. I can see them taking them and maybe by 2.
I think they'll definitely feel confident going into it. I think they'll definitely look to previous Europa League performances and think if you can replicate that tempo, then you're in with every chance of coming away with a result. And I think if they had to win the game and go into the semi-final, I think that changes the complexion of Sunday's game. You don't feel tiredness the same way that you do if you come out of it on the back of a defeat. I think it just gives the whole club a lift. I think it gives the support a lift. I think realistically, if you're thinking it's an opportunity possibly for the only domestic trophy, then I think you have a bit more about you going into it. The converse is true. I think if you lose the game and you're trying to get people up for another fight, I think that becomes very difficult. But I would agree with you. I think Rangers will fancy their chances on Thursday night.
Yeah, I've got them to win. Ruffy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0. I think the crowd will play a big part. There's no doubt about that. But first goal's always important. They've been good at home, and this Braga side don't look like a team that's going to score a lot of goals. So I think 2 goals will be enough.
Yeah, Ali?
I'm going to say Rangers to win 2-1.
2-1. That means we're going to extra time, Ali.
And I think they would prevail. I think they would come out of it if it got to that stages. I think they would. I think they will. I think they'll win it. I think Braga will score.
Right. Okay. And then Rangers will go through.
And Rangers go through.
Okay then. It could be nervy if it goes the way Ali's talking about.
I like a bit of excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and an extra 30 minutes.
Just and another extra 30 minutes. I know. Yeah, that's another thing. Honestly, you're unbelievable. You think Rangers are going to go another 30 minutes?
I think it'll be fairly tight in terms of the game, but I do think Rangers have got enough to win.
Okay. Post-split fixtures. If the top end is exciting, the bottom end is just nail-biting. This is Dundee and St Johnstone. Dundee-St Johnstone is the first game. It doesn't get any better for me for the bottom end. What about the excitement of that? Who is going to be in the playoff position, and are they good enough to beat the likes of a Partick Thistle in the playoffs? And it's heavily weighted in favour of the Premiership club. And who's going to be immediately relegated? Well, April the 23rd at 3 o'clock is not for the faint-hearted. I think I might go up to that game, Ruffy. That would be fantastic. Then it's Aberdeen Dundee, then it's St Mirren Dundee, then it's Dundee against Hibs and Livingston Dundee. And as far as St Johnstone are concerned, they've got St Johnstone, St Mirren, then Livingston St Johnstone, then St Johnstone Aberdeen, then Hibs St Johnstone. Wow, Ruffy.
The first game's first one's a big one. St Johnstone win that, Dundee are gone. Mm-hmm.
And do you get the feeling that St Johnstone are going to win it at Dens Park?
No, I think Dundee showed last week they've got a bit of fight in them, with Charlie back as well. Sort of a pulling the strings. As Ali said there, I've been in teams that get beat 7-0. It's hard to get your head around it's okay saying, right, it's Celtic. That's not the defining result, but you've still got to pick yourself up for the display that the players have put in. I think it's hard to recover from it, so I'm going to give Dundee a wee chance in that one at home.
You think they're going to win it?
Yeah, I think they could. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think, strangely enough, the way they've started to play and start to show a bit of spark about them, a bit of fight, I think they can win against St Johnstone, and then it's all about that game at Pittodrie. If Dundee go up there and get the lacklustre, mediocre Aberdeen that we have at the moment, then I think all bets are off. I just think Dundee are going to take this down right to the wire.
I would say I think so much hinges on the first game post-split, that game at Dens Park.
If Dundee win, do they escape?
I think they'll take it to the wire. I think if they win, they'll take it potentially to the last day. If they even get a draw, I think it gives them a fighting chance. But I think if St Johnstone win it,
Game's up.
Okay. Yeah, I think if St Johnstone win it, I think Dundee are probably going.
Well, we're all agreeing on that. Yeah. So let me have your prediction then, because obviously you're not going to be here the closer we get to it. Well, you will be. You'll be here next week, but I think Dundee will win that one and take it to the wire. And I think they can sneak it. I'm willing to be wrong for Charlie, but I think Dundee can sneak it into the playoff because I see something in them.
No, I disagree with you.
Right. Are they winning the game on the 23rd? St Johnstone are winning.
I don't know if St Johnstone will win it, but I don't think they'll lose it.
Well, let's not deal in your probability nonsense. Come on, give me the prediction.
I am at the top of the predictor league.
Brilliant,
I get to tell you.
Is there any chance of an opinion then? Come on.
I think Dundee will go down, and I think St Johnstone will stay up.
Right, and do you think St Johnstone will win the game at Dens Park?
I don't think they'll lose it, which I think is a crucial factor. I think so long as they don't lose it, they stay up. I think if they win it, they breathe a bit easier, but I don't think they'll lose it. And I think Dundee need to win it to have any chance of staying up.
So give me your prediction then.
I'm going to go for 2 each.
2 each, okay. Took a while to drag it out of her, Ruffy, but we got there in the end. Yep. What about yourself?
I'm going to go Dundee to win the game, and I'm going to go with St Mirren to be drawn into it.
Oh, that's a good shout.
I think they're drawn in. I think Charlie scoring the second goal, you saw the players, how much it meant to them and the supporters, and they're moving away from that game on a high rather than moving it away from it on a downer. So I think they'll go into the game with a lot of hope, but they've still got to go out and produce the goods. So
I think a derby's different though sometimes. I think there's a bit of spark around a derby game, there's a bit of fight and playing for the jersey and everything else that the supporters demand from players, but I just don't know. I think over the course of this season and over the course of recent weeks, I don't think you've seen enough to suggest that they'll stay up.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, your attitude, which is because I've known you such a long time, is spiky. And you've got them all going mental on here. You know, Leslie says, "Well done, Alison." Yeah, absolutely.
Must be a tenor.
And Niall says, "Well said, Alison. You're top of the predictions for a reason. So clearly, people like." And Stuart Ramsey says, "Tell them, Alison." So clearly, there are people here that listen. And Paul Brady says Alison's just smashed Peter to bits. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm going to quote an old Hollywood movie. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So that's why I know exactly. Ruffy, see if you push her that much, she just once you back her into a wall, she's like, just suddenly she'll come out fighting, and that's what we need from her. And Daniel says, I've always liked Alison. Oh yeah, that's what I like. People sucking up in this programme. Anyway, apart from anything else.
Could you ask her the prediction for the Celtic Rangers game so we can get so we can turn it around?
Yeah. Put my phone off tonight.
Once she predicts the Celtic Rangers semi-final, that's when everybody starts to change. And apart from anything else, only Dundee will be confident. All the other teams are on a downer, says Stuart. Stuart, you never know, you could be right on this one. It's interesting to see exactly what's going to happen. We haven't even talked about the possibility of Aberdeen being dragged into it, Ruffy.
Yeah, well, anybody who's down there, it's a worry. It's a worry if you're losing games week in, week out. You've got to try and turn it round. But a lot of them will be saying to themselves, one game and we're safe. Yeah. Depending how the Johnson game goes, obviously.
Well, look at the table. Here's the Premiership table, and top and bottom, 6 point advantage for Celtic. But at the bottom end there, all bets are off now. Dundee 5 points behind St Johnstone. Then you've got St Mirren and Aberdeen. I think Livingston and Hibernian Alley, it's safe to say, will just be trying to play out that middle ground. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. I think Hibs and Livingston are free from it. I think Aberdeen and St Mirren ought to be out of it, but I think so much really depends. If St Johnstone win that game at Dens Park and St Mirren slip up or Aberdeen slip up, then I think they could easily be dragged into it. And I think what you also have to factor in at Pittodrie and at St Mirren is the changes that have taken place, that are taking place, and just the atmosphere around both clubs at the minute, which I think never lends itself well when you're fighting to move away from that. And I think if you get caught into it, I think anything could happen.
Absolutely, especially when he's offloading players right, left and centre.
I was just saying a wee thing. See, when it comes to this stage,
Yeah.
I wish they'd split that table. I hate it when they keep it as it is and somebody in the bottom 6 starts winning and they jump above somebody who's in the
top.
top.
So you just want a bottom half
stupid.
table.
Yeah, bottom half, it looks stupid.
Okay, well, I'll phone Neil Doncaster and see if I can get it changed because you don't like it.
But if 6 is a higher points tally than, 7th has a higher points tally than 6, that's effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, listen, Scottish Cup semi-finals, may as well get to the meat and bones of it. First of all, Hearts early with their press conference. That must mean that they want to just get their minds focused on what's going to be happening on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it. Our reporter Kerry Pollock was out at the Oriam.
I'm inside the Oriam Hearts Training Centre today, where Robbie Neilson has been looking ahead to yet another Edinburgh derby, this time in the Scottish Cup semi-finals. The Hearts boss says that these are the type of games that can define your season, and a win on Saturday could be the difference between a good season and a great season for the Edinburgh side.
I say it's been a good campaign, but it's got the opportunity to be a great campaign if we can get through this game. It's going to be difficult. Yes, we get a good result at the weekend here at Tynecastle against Hibs, but it's a different venue, different environment, different pressure. We need to make sure we're ready for that as well.
Club captain Craig Gordon has been to this stage of the Cup a few times in his career and is more than familiar with what type of atmosphere awaits them.
We know what to expect. We know it's a big game, and we'll be ready. We'll talk about our tactics and be as prepared as we possibly can. And if we're prepared, that takes a great deal of the uncertainty away, and we'll be ready.
12:15pm kick-off at Hampden. These two will meet face-to-face once again. Will history repeat itself for Hearts, or will Hibs take home the glory? We'll find out this weekend.
Yeah, well done to Kerry. She was out there at the Oriam. Not great conditions out there, but nevertheless, covering Hearts. I watched them at the weekend. I predicted 3-1, Ruffy,
I saw that,
so it panned out. They were just too good. They've got too many players that I think, are at it. I think the third position was easily enough theirs for a long time, and I think they've got too much for Hibs.
They're in the box seat. Obviously that game last week's coming too soon. After getting beat by your rivals, and then getting into another game. The difference with the two teams are Hearts have got a strike force, and Hibs haven't. And basically, that's what it is. They've got more adventure in the goal side of it. Obviously, Porteous is back. If he will make a difference, but I still think Boyce and Sims are too much for them.
Yeah, I think if anything, he's brought players in, Sean Maloney, but it's the players that have gone out and the injured players that have really kind of derailed any kind of momentum or style that you could see from Hibs. Although I do have to say, Alison, at Tynecastle in the first 15-20 minutes, I thought with Harry Clark and a number of other players, Doig and Joe Newell that I like, they played some nice football, nice passing football. You could see what Sean Maloney's trying to do, but I don't think they've got enough good players to execute his plan.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I thought they started well. I think maybe what might be most disappointing for him and from a Hibs perspective was the second half shown. I thought there was a real lack of fight in the performance. I thought it felt as though they had capitulated. I think that would be particularly disappointing. I think probably best to judge him when he has a full quota of players that are fit and available, when he has a full squad and when he's had a window at least to try and change things. But it's been very disappointing in recent weeks, and I think you would have to say that Hearts are overwhelming favourites on Saturday, just on the back of that display and in the back of recent performances and results for Hibs.
Yeah, Kingsley, liked him. Mackay just cruised it. Andy Halliday took so much stick, Ruffy, it defied belief, but he just showed his class throughout. I thought he was head and shoulders above anything. Maybe a wee run for his money early on when the way Newell was playing, but then Hibs faded completely. And I think they've got too much. The boy Sims, Ruffy, he's like Akin Fenway, the big hustling, bustling guy. He just is like a battering ram through people.
And I said the other day, he's taking the pressure off Boyce. Boyce doesn't have to score now because they've got somebody else who'll come up with a goal. But the two of them together up front are more than what Hibs have got. And the bottom line is Hibs are a bottom six team. That's their forum.
Yeah. Absolutely. What are you going for? Are you going too early? Are you going to wait and see?
No, at the moment, Hearts. For me, I don't think you can turn a 3-1 defeat around in a week.
Yeah, I'm going to go Hearts 2-1, Ali.
Yeah, I'm going to go Hearts, and I think I'd probably say 2-1. I think the very least that Sean Maloney will want from Hibs is that they make it difficult for Hearts, that they ask questions of their own. I think he'll want a more rounded performance over the course of the 90 minutes. I think he'll want to see a bit more spirit about the performance, but I think Hearts are too strong for them.
Yeah, and the other one, only because we won't get a chance to speak to you. This is why we love a Monday or a Tuesday, because we get you in early, and then what happens is you go away and everybody calls you every name under the sun on this feed, which we don't read out to you. Although some people do highlight it to you, I must admit.
Yeah,
but
there's a few people with a nice way of words.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've given them some short shrift at Ali, let me tell you. I mean, honestly, Rangers against Celtic, it's difficult to call because I think that you've got the permutation of Rangers Braga. Hopefully for Giovanni van Bronckhorst, he's looking and saying, well, Helander doesn't look as if he's going to be involved. He's waiting on Lundstrom to see if he responds, and then he's going to throw in Ramsey. It's a big game. Surely this is a game for Ramsey. And Kemar Roofe scored a hat-trick, which is great. Aribo scored a brilliant goal against St Mirren. So if, as you say, they can get the confidence boost, suddenly it's game on for Sunday again.
Yeah, and I think it's different too. The environment's different from anything that we've seen over recent seasons, because you have a 50-50 split at Hampden, which you don't get now at Celtic Park or Ibrox. So,
because it's just such a small derby now. It's I call them the narrow-minded derbies.
Yeah, so whereas this is a different experience for players. I think it's more in keeping with what you would have known even before all the ticket nonsense going on. I think it's a different atmosphere when you have an equitable share of tickets in the stadium. I think Celtic will win, and I say that because I think they are peaking just at the business end of the season. I think what you see just now is a team that are just oozing belief. I think they are playing with a conviction, with an assurance about them, and I think they look very capable. I think they have goals in them. I think they look fairly solid defensively. I think they coped with everything that Rangers threw at them at Ibrox, in a game that Rangers knew realistically they had to take something from to go and win the title. And I fancy now that Celtic will prevail on Sunday, and I think they'll go through to the final.
I'm really looking forward to it, Ruffy. Because I'm looking forward to the Hearts Hibs game on the Saturday, because I love an Edinburgh derby, but especially because, you know, the atmosphere at Hampden Park. But on the Sunday, you know, as Ali mentioned, that's what this derby was famous for. The atmosphere, huge support, especially in a semi-final or a final. Suddenly you really get why this derby is famous. It's not famous across the world for great football. It's famous across the world sometimes for the poison, for the hatred, the idiotic nature of some people, and of course the colour that brings them all together, the great divide.
Yeah, and you would hope that the powers that be, who will all be there, I mean the board members and the people who make the decisions, you'd like to think that they would be sitting there as we will be sitting there going, what an absolute spectacle this is. Let's bin this stupid, 700 people. Look at what we're watching today, and look at how much it means to football in Scotland. And let's get back to where they are. Let's hope the football's a spectacular game as well. And they've got to be honest enough to say that that's what everybody wants to see. We've been saying it for ages.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, but I think both clubs are frightened to make that move because their own support don't want it. Yeah. I think it's each support is quite happy to lock the other out if it were. But I would agree with you. I think it detracts completely from the atmosphere of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Started in Edinburgh and then the pettiness found its way through here. Some other stuff that I want to get your thoughts on, guys. SPFL will look for a sponsor for VAR. I wonder where they heard that, Ruffy. That's the way to pay for these things. There'll be a sliding scale of clubs' contribution, but maybe if they could get a sponsor. Although
sliding scale, I wonder where they heard that from as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Bigger clubs should be playing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Calm your jets, Ruffy. There's nothing like stroking your own ego. But here's another thing, Ali. Good luck getting a sponsor, because who in their right mind is going to come into this I just call it a cesspit of people backstabbing each other. That's why Neil Doncaster and the marketing executive at the SPFL have nothing but sympathy for him. He's actually having to go out and try and go to big brands and say, come into this league and sponsor it. And then they all go in, and it's like a scene from a Roman Senate. They all just backstab each other.
I think there is a pettiness involved. I think sometimes there's a parochial element to our game that can be very difficult to move away from. But I think overall, we're talking about two very sensible options to come in and improve the game. The first is VAR. I think you risk being left behind if you're not going to make a move towards implementing it into the game. I think you have to applaud anything that encourages the right decision being made in a game. And secondly, I think actively looking for a sponsorship to ease the financial cost of it is very sensible. I think it's a move in the right direction, so I think you would have to applaud it. But yes, I would take the point that you are making.
You can't have every manager in the Premier League coming out after games and saying we need VAR, and then you get a chance to get VAR and they make up some stupid excuse why they don't want to pay for it. You know, everybody wants it. All the clubs want it. All the managers
but there is
want
a vote coming.
I don't know. I mean, this is absolutely nothing against the lower divisions, but I don't know why they're voting.
Neither do I.
I agree.
I don't know why they're voting. I don't know why they're the ones who could kibosh the whole thing. I don't get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it's not going to be used.
If this doesn't get voted in, Alison, it's just another indictment of why we are such a small-minded, backward organisation.
I think it will be voted in. I hear exactly what you're saying here, but I think it will be voted in, not least of all because all we have heard for the last 2 or 3 seasons since VAR came in, all we have heard is, if we had VAR, that wouldn't have stood, or VAR would have looked at that again. And I think collectively there will be a feeling that it improves the standard overall of the game.
James Docherty's just said VAR sponsored by Peter and Ruffy. Can you imagine the flack we'd get, Ruffy? If we're not even deciding whether it's offside or not.
That'd be incredible, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Good luck with that. I can't wait to see if they're going to get a sponsor or not. But listen, yeah, exactly. Around 8,000 fans are expected at Hampden Park tonight. Caroline Weir says, OK, we're going to put all this wrangling behind us. Misplaced wrangling, may I add, Alison. But nevertheless, let's get on, get as many fans in. I hope there'll be a few walking up as well to enjoy Scotland against Spain. You're going to be there for the women tonight. Yeah,
I'm working this evening. I'm looking forward to it. I think Spain are the driving force in women's football at the minute. The money that they've ploughed into the development of the women's game over the last decade just coming to fruition now. I think the spine of that side is a Barcelona side, who are again arguably are the best team in women's football at the minute. And I think Scotland will look just to really get over the humiliation. They were absolutely annihilated by Spain in Seville. I think it was November, the 8-0 game. I think they'll just look to for a better return. But you would have to say it's like Scotland playing peak Brazil or Scotland playing peak Argentina with a Maradona. It's a formidable ask for them tonight to get anything from it. I expect 3-1 Spain. I think Scotland would take that now. I think if you offered that as a result, they would take it because they have the capability of destroying Scotland. Yeah, OK, what are you going for? I wouldn't like to say, but I think it might be a wider scoreline than what you would say. They have players who are very, very capable and real athletes, like genuine, proper athletic footballers who are capable of really turning the screw. OK, Alison McConnell's her name, just in case you're wondering. Let's see how many steam into you now, Ali. You've been the prophet of doom today, apart from obviously with St Johnstone. Ruffy, some good news just before we obviously say farewell tonight. A couple of things. Louis van Gaal has confirmed that after 25 radiation treatments and a 6-month wait, the treatment for his prostate cancer has been successful, and I think that's magic. For anybody who's going through this, it's tremendous news for everybody, not just him. I can't actually
wonder what it must feels like waiting in results for this kind of magnitude of illness. It must be horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Van Gaal has a great track record as a manager, and I think a lot of people right across the globe realise he's one of the greats, and I think it's great that he's got that news. So brilliant for Louis Van Gaal. Football, you're going Scotland, Spain tonight. I'm going to sit down and maybe after the dinner just relax and watch Real Madrid against Chelsea. Ali, even Thomas Tuchel, the Chelsea manager, doesn't think they've got a chance of turning this around.
Maybe not the biggest chance, given the first game's result, and given the competition and the opponent and the stadium we play in. But we never manage our input and our effort and our belief by the chances we have for a result. We never did, and we will not start tomorrow.
I wouldn't like to be going into the Bernabeu, Ruffy, trying to overturn a 3-1 deficit, and Benzema, since Ronaldo's exit in 2018, 77 goals in 131 matches. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. And the boys, the Rangers boys that came in, remember him at that Rangers game when he was young. And he's just scored everywhere. International football, club football, the lot. And no, I can't see them turning that round either. No,
and I think that Bayern Munich haven't been firing on all cylinders, but I still think they'll be too strong for Villarreal.
Yeah, I think so. Certainly you would expect them to come through. I think your money would be in Bayern Munich.
And tomorrow, Ali, Atletico against Man City. There's a section of the area has been closed down because of some of the fans' behaviour in the Atletico stadium. But I think, are you going for Man City to see them off, even with Diego Simeone's attitude?
Yeah, no, Man City for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Ruffy, Liverpool, the eventual winners of the Champions League, are taking on Benfica 3-1 up.
There was last week at the Man City Liverpool game. Peter likes to send me wee texts after the 2-1 for Man City. I was.
Were you tempted? Yeah. Oh,
thankfully, I never.
Well, to be fair, I think Man City have got the easier run in for the league. But what do you want? Do you want to win the? Here's a question. We started with do you want this player back playing for you or not, which was a great little suggestion from Liam, I think. What do you want to win? Do you want to win the English Premier League or the Champions League, Ali?
I think you would always go for the Champions League.
Yes.
Always. But I think the English Premier League is such now. It carries such prestige and such financial reward that you can see that there is still a draw with it at the minute. But I think overall, I think the Champions League still is a cream of tournaments to win.
Ruffy.
Champions League, because you know that if you're first or second in the league in the Champions League next year, so
yeah,
you get a chance to win it twice.
Yeah, well, it's just 6 times now, Ruffy. This will be 7 if they win it. It would be absolutely amazing. I'd take the Champions League every day of the week rather than the league. It's all about opinions. We've given you more than a few opinions. You might like them, you might not. Alison thinks that St Johnstone look as if they'll avoid relegation or avoid the relegated spot. Do you think they'll avoid overall relegation?
I don't think they'll avoid the playoffs. But I don't think they'll be the automatic.
Do you think they'll survive in the playoff? It's only Thistle.
or Inverness or Arbroath.
I'm not going to answer that one just yet.
Oh, right, there you are. Okay, Ruffy. We've got opinions. Ali thinks Celtic will win the Old Firm game at the weekend on the Sunday, and she's gone for Hearts on the Saturday as well, and she said that Scotland are going to get tonked tonight. There you are.
On that
note, she's still top of the predictor. Anyway, apart from anything else, absolutely brilliant. I didn't think we were going to get Ali back, by the way, because she went to Amsterdam for a wee break, Ruffy, and decided to go via 15 countries to get back here.
Yeah, but you can see there's an aggression there that must.
Oh, she's a. Do you know what my mother used to say? She's a nippy sweetie. Do you remember that, Ruffy? Brilliant. She's got her backup. It's brilliant. Great to have you on, Ali. Great to have your opinion on things, whether you're going to be top at the end of the season. Only time will tell. Ruffy, get your finger out, will you? Let's stick to the same kind of predictions and see if we can reel her in. Don't forget, coming up in the next couple of days, we're going to give you the chance to get your favourite player painted by Gio Thompson. This is a great competition. I can't wait to launch that. And over and above that, we'll be reading out more of your opinions as we go in depth tomorrow and on Thursday on Rangers against Braga. We'll get the thoughts of the manager Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and the Rangers players as well. So you can join us if you can, 4 o'clock. Hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. We'll give you details of that competition. If you indeed download the PLZ Soccer app, you can do what Ruffy did on holiday. You can just pick your phone up and watch the programme live on your phone. The app has all the breaking football stories across the globe, so it's well worthy of downloading PLZ Soccer's app. From Alison, from Ruffy, and from myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.